Our next guest, he has too many talents. It makes me feel
Pretty
bad
upsetting.
sometimes. Yeah. Like this guy, he worked
Save
at
some for the
Moody
rest
with
of
us.
us.
He plays saxophone really well, proposed to his wife, as I recall, while playing it on a rooftop. He
Ooh.
flies airplanes. It's like, could you calm down so the rest of us could get some attention here? Ricky Brown, welcome back.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How y'all doing?
Doing great. Well, you have other talents I probably don't even know about. You cook really well, probably?
Well, I am from the great state of Mississippi, so it's required that you know how to cook.
Boy, we could have a quicker conversation asking what you don't do well, I think. You're a catch, Ricky Brown.
Well, you know what? As long as my wife keeps thinking so, I'll take that.
Amen, brother. Amen. Now, one thing we haven't chatted about before is you are a veteran of the United States Air Force. Can you tell us a bit about your experience serving our country?
Yeah, so cool thing is, I'm actually a third generation veteran.
Oh,
So my mom's dad was an Army vet, my dad's dad was a Navy vet. My parents met in the Army, and I am a veteran of the United States Air Force.
wow. That's wild. So did you feel like it was almost inevitable that you would serve, or it's just something you really wanted to do?
Possibly so. I have a daughter now, and I'd probably be a bucket of tears if she told me she wanted to join the armed forces. But, um, you know, at the end of the day, God was preparing me for ministry, and I didn't know it. So while my friends were going off to college to experience their college freedom, um, life was sort of kind of beating me into a pulp, while on active duty, and I needed that shaping, I needed that formation. I think it gave me a level of resolve that a lot of my friends don't have. So I never really got that on the yard college experience. I never got it. I joined the Air Force right after high school, and to be honest, Brian, I don't know if I would have stewarded that well.
Yeah.
I have visited homecoming, and there are a lot of things that stand in opposition to the call of Christ at homecoming. So I don't know if I would have, I don't know if I would have made it. I'll just be honest with you. So the Lord had me serving in Operation Northern Watch in Turkey and Operation Enduring Freedom in Qatar, and He was definitely shaping my heart for ministry for sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about your role in the United States Air Force?
Yes. So my role was in a career field called services. So when I say that God was preparing me to serve in ministry, I'm serious. I actually had a very high score on the ASVAB, and so I wanted to do something like medical or something that I could get a job with once I got out. But recruiters tend to talk slick, if you will, and if they're and if their mouths are moving, there may be a chance that what they're saying is not true. If you're a recruiter, please prove me wrong by doing what you say you're going to do. And they get certain credits for putting people in certain career fields that are hard to staff, right? So what they told me was, don't pick your job before you leave. You're going to the gateway of the Air Force, and you're going to have so many other options there. So I ended up in services because that's actually the opposite, right? So in services, we did food service, lodging, fitness, readiness, and even mortuary affairs. You
Oh
don't do
boy.
all of them at once, but before I got out, I had done all five of those areas.
Oh wow. How many years did you serve doing that?
I served 4 years, and when they hit the World Trade Center, the President of the United States voluntold us to do some more time because of stop loss. Okay, so because of stop loss, I ended up doing another 7 months because we were in a contingency time in our country.
Wow. Well, I'm sure you've heard it before, but thank you so much for your service to our country. We are certainly grateful for that. As a takeaway now, as a veteran of the United States military, what are some of the things people don't understand, you think, about what it means to serve?
So it is not a job; it's a way of life. I think that's the biggest thing. And before you serve, you need to consider that it's not a position. It is literally a way of life. So from sun up to sundown, it's really true that there are days, especially in basic, you will do more than the average person by the time 6 a.m. hits. That's true.
Hmm.
So it's a way of life as far as how you sacrifice by leaving your family behind as you go, overseas or deploy. It's a way of life as far as um, the realities of the things that you would carry with you for the rest of your life, good and bad. So I think that's the biggest thing is for me, by far the best decision I've ever made. Nothing has shaped me more. Nothing has formed me more and made a greater mark on my life and who I am than joining the Air Force and being deployed. Obviously, second to my relationship with Jesus and discipleship. But there's nothing natural that has affected me more than that. So, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. You're going to carry things with you for the rest of your life, whether good or bad.
Now, we can never fully understand the struggle that some veterans go through, but to the best of your ability, can you help us understand those mental and emotional struggles that many veterans experience?
Yeah, so you guys probably aware of the number of suicides per day by veterans, and it's shocking and it's sad to me. I see the problem as twofold. One is it's a cultural problem, and what I mean by that is, I was deployed twice, but I have friends that have been to Iraq 8 times.
Hmm.
I don't know that a person is supposed to do that 8 times. You know, that's really, really hard on a human being. And I just think that maybe there really isn't a category for the level of trauma and the level of marking, if you will, that a U.S. Armed Forces member goes through that has been deployed 8 times. Okay. There's nothing else like that, right? And so I just think that it is probably underestimated the level of trauma that is. I was ministering to a guy in my church, and he sleeps in a recliner because he's afraid to lay down.
Ugh.
So he has to have his head up. Okay. And he was in a pretty gory situation. And so that's why he wants to have his head up and he
Wow.
doesn't want to lay down in a bed. And sometimes his wife told me sometimes he takes 2 and 3 hour showers trying to wash off things that aren't there anymore. So I just think that people don't have a category for that kind of impact on the human heart and the human soul and the human mind. And so now that's part one. Part two is, and I'm very passionate about this. We have got to push legislation and our government officials to do a better job at taking care of veterans that have been marked for life. We've got to do it.
Yeah.
There are associations and companies that literally make a living by holding the VA to their word. So it's not enough that you've got all your paperwork in order. You've got to have certain buzzwords in your applications to get benefits and things like that. And if not, they automatically reject it the first time just to see if you really want it.
Hmm.
And then there are companies, myself included. I tried my best to get some things that were due to me, and I've been out of the Air Force, Lord, 21 years. Never was able to get the benefits that were promised to me. And then finally, I had basically a principle, right? I refused to pay somebody to get for me what you should just do because you're an honest person, you know?
Yeah.
And so I finally broke down and paid one of those companies to look through my records and do the application and get me. And I had what I was owed in 8 months.
Oh,
So
wow.
21 years went by without having it because of my personal, principle of I'm not paying somebody for this. I should, it's what they owe me. And then in 8 months after hiring a company, I had it. So some veterans feel left out and they feel abandoned. And and it's true. It's a fact that a large population of our homeless population in America, they're veterans with mental illnesses.
Yep.
So we've just got to do better by the people who fought for our freedom. We got to.
Talk to the Christians listening. What do you think Christians can do to appropriately value veterans among us?
Well, if you're civically engaged, absolutely support elected officials and legislation that wants to, do right by the members and veterans of armed forces. But in addition to that, on the local level, you have the USO. My church, as a matter of fact, just yesterday, we had a table out in the gathering area just supporting the USO and people giving and signing up for that. Then you have the VFW, the Veterans Foreign War Organization. Um, there are local organizations and chapters where you can tap in and begin to understand how to best support them. But I think relationship is the key, right? If you talk to a veteran community leader that's either connected to the USO, the local VFW, that's probably all you need. And from there, you'll be connected to everyone. And then just begin to find out what the needs are. Oftentimes, uh, there is this feeling of loneliness and separateness and being apart from other people because maybe there aren't folks that really understand where you're at as a result of your experience. So I would say connect with the local veterans organizations. Talk to that leader. That leader is already passionate about helping veterans, and they know far more than you and I do. And begin to lean on them there, and then inspire movement within your biblical community, and go from there.
What do you say to young people who are considering serving our country today?
The most important thing I can say is the best decision I ever made. I think times are changing. I mean, I've been out 21 years. We have a space force. I mean, that would have been cool.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? We watched Luke Skywalker. We didn't even know that that would end up being a thing one day. So, yeah, I would say do it as a matter of calling and not a matter of convenience.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is, let's say you messed around in school and didn't do your work. You don't have any money for college. I'm talking about me. Uh, and you join the United States Armed Forces because of the GI Bill. It's probably not a good idea to join. Now, even though yes, that is why I joined. um, God's providence and God's hand was all over that. Um, but if you feel like my mom and dad, they both felt like, hey, if I don't join the army, I'm going to miss out on an important part of my life. And they met each other there. And they've been married, over 45 years now, 47 years now. So, yeah, God has been good to them. God's been good to me. But make sure you feel a strong calling toward it and not just, for the benefits, because as you've heard me say already, you may even have to fight for those once you get out.
That's a great word. Again, Ricky Brown with us. If folks want to connect with you, Pastor, and learn more about your book, again, The Five Hazardous Attitudes, or connect with your ministry in some other way, how can they do it?
Yeah, you can go to my site at rickybrown.org. You can connect with me on Instagram at all things Ricky B. And the book is sold everywhere the books are sold: Audible, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. And I'd appreciate your support.
Thanks again, my friend. Always good to talk to you. May the Lord bless you and your family. And thanks again for your service to our country.